Vegas has come to Old Town Clovis.
Jamie.
This weekend, we're going to go see Weezer, Fall Out Boy, and Green Day at the Hella Mega Tour in San Francisco. I'm very excited. And I haven't done one of these in a while. I want to show you one of my instruments, or in this case, one of my dad's instruments again. This is I think, 2001-ish Highway 1 P-Bass from Fender. It was one of their lowest end P-basses that were made in the US of A. Made in the US of A! And we did a few modifications. I think it's a really cool one. I'm borrowing this bass because I actually don't have a bass right now. My brother wanted the signature bass. And I kind of explained this in the last Editor podcast, if you listened to that yesterday. He wanted that back, so it was a bad trade on my part. I traded him back the bass guitar for a bass amp. So I currently don't have a bass guitar of my own, but I have an amp. But my dad is letting me borrow this P-Bass. I have played this P-Bass extensively. It has been very handy when I've sat in on bass for a number of bands in the area. I played with the group Radagun. I played bass. I played bass with Amoret and the Jacktones, and I believe I've played this bass with just about each of those bands in town. I definitely have a recording of, not exactly Amoret, but there was this cover band night, and we were the Paramore. So like I said, this is mostly stock. The neck, the tuners, the body, the pickup is all stock. But we did put a tortoiseshell style pickguard on the bass. I just think Sunburst and the faux tortoiseshell pickguards look great. This is like my kind of primary set. And then you may have noticed that the bridge, it's this Badass Bass 2. Now, I do believe the company that made these doesn't make these anymore, but it's a high density metal bridge. The strings do not go through the body. It all sits on top, but it's just a really heavy duty bridge, replacing the original bridge, the stock bridge, to just kind of really give it some heft on the low end. Now, because the Badass Bass bridge maker isn't in business anymore, Fender does make their own high density or high weight bridge stop piece now. I forget what it's called, but it's a great piece, and it just really makes a P-Bass sound nice and heavy. I love the way this bass sounds. I love the way it feels. For the Highway 1, the P-Bass neck isn't too chunky. It is wider, a little bit wider than a jazz bass. So what was on the signature bass It is a little bit wider, but it's still pretty thin. It's not a big baseball bat of a neck. I had a friend who had a P-Bass special, so it was like the P-Bass and the Jazz bass pickup, but that thing just had a neck that was so hard to play because it was just a big old baseball bat. But I really love this bass. It's one of my favorites, and I'm glad that I get to play it right now. I'll give it back to my dad when he needs it. But now that I have a bass amp, the Mark bass amp, I actually don't have it up here. I just have a little practice amp in here. But after the wedding, after a couple of Lynn's purchases, I think the next guitar bass purchase I want to get a Fender American Standard 5-string P-Bass. I think that would be super cool. I've wanted one since Fender started making the 5-string P-Basses, and most recently I noticed Adam Neely, the YouTuber who does some really cool in-depth music breakdowns, has a 5-string P-Bass, and I'm extremely jealous. I've wanted one for years. I think the only way that you can kind of improve it is like the Mark Hoppus bass, like those Yamaha and other Asian-made basses, is flip the P-Bass pickups so that the higher D and G strings get kind of more of a beefier sound, benefited from the pickup being closer to the neck. I think that's the only thing I would change about this bass, and even the 5-string P-Bass. You know, maybe someday I'll be able to get a Fender custom shop 5-string P-Bass with the flipped pickup. That's the dream. And that's all I got for you today. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Shoo.